APIs have connected software for decades. So when MCP became popular, one question came up everywhere. If APIs already work, why do we need MCP? And the answer is easy to misunderstand. MCP does not replace APIs. In many cases, MCP actually uses those same APIs underneath. What MCP changes is something else. It changes how an AI application discovers and uses those capabilities. Let me show you with one example. Imagine we have a simple application. It needs to create a Jira ticket. With an API, the flow is very clear. Your code sends a request to the Jira API. You provide title, description, priority, and authentication. Jira processes the request and you get a response. This is exactly what APIs are good at. One piece of software wants something from another piece of software. The API defines how they communicate. But notice one important thing. Your application already knows what it has to do. Developer wrote the code, the developer chose the endpoint, the developer provided the parameters, and the developer decided when that API should be called. That works perfectly for normal applications. Now let us change the application. Instead of clicking a button, the user says, check yesterday's failed payments. Create a Jira ticket for the important failures, then send a summary to the Slack. Our AI model can understand the request. But there is a problem. How does it know which database to query? Which Jira action is available? How to create the ticket? And which Slack action should happen first? You can absolutely solve this using APIs. You can write integrations for database, Jira, and Slack. Then you describe those functions to the model. The model chooses one and your application executes it. And this is an important point. The model itself is not magically making API calls. The software around the model still performs the actual actions. So technically, we already have a working solution, which raises an obvious question: what problem is MCP actually solving? Imagine every AI application in your company needs these integrations. Your support assistant needs Jira. Your developer assistant needs Jira. Your operations assistant also needs Jira. And maybe all three needs Slack, GitHub, your database, and several internal tools. You can build custom integrations for every application. But now you are repeating the same work. This is where MCP becomes useful. Instead of every AI application learning a different integration format, MCP provides a common protocol. On one side, your AI applications has an MCP client. On the other side, you have an MCP server, a Jira MCP server, a database MCP server, a Slack MCP server. These servers expose capabilities in a standard format. For example, search failed payments, create Jira ticket, send Slack message. The AI application can discover descriptions of these tools, including what they do and what inputs they need. So instead of teaching every AI application the low-level details of every service, you give it a standard menu of capabilities. Think of it as a labeled toolbox. The model does not need to understand how the drill was manufactured. It needs to know there is a drill, this is what it does, and these are the inputs needed to use it. Now let us run our example again. The user says, check yesterday's failed payments, create a Jira ticket for the important failures, then send the summary to Slack. First, the AI application knows which tools are available through its connected MCP servers. The model sees something like search failed payments, create Jira ticket, and send Slack message. The model decides, first I need the payment data. So it selects search failed payments tool. The application sends the tool request through the MCP client. The database MCP server executes the operations, then results come back. Now the model sees the failures. It decides that two of them need investigation. So it asks to use create Jira ticket tool. The Jira MCP server receives the request. And here is the important part. The Jira MCP server may still call the normal Jira API underneath. Jira has not disappeared. API has not disappeared. MCP is providing a standard AI facing layer in front of that capability. Once Jira returns the ticket number, the result goes back to the AI application. Then the model chooses the Slack tool and the summary gets sent. Now we can compare them properly. An AI application is a general software interface. MCP is much more specific. It is designed around AI applications working with external tools and context. With normal AI integration, the developers usually work from documentation. With MCP, an AI application can get the standard descriptions of capabilities exposed by the server. Suppose you build your own Jira integration directly inside one AI application. That can be perfectly fine. But let's say 10 AI applications needs Jira. You now need a way to reuse that integration. You could build your own internal standard. MCP simply gives you a standard that AI clients and servers can agree on. This is a real value, not magic. Standardization. So does MCP replace APIs? No. Imagine your architecture like this. AI application, then MCP client, then MCP server, then existing API, then actual service. The MCP server can sit in front of your existing APIs, but it does not have to. An MCP server could also expose something that does not have a traditional web APIs. For example, local files, command line tools, or direct access to database. So MCP is not simply another kind of REST API. It is not the next version of APIs. It solves a more specific integration problem for AI applications. Here is the practical answer. If you have a normal application calling another service, use the API. If you have one AI application and 2 or 3 simple integrations, a direct integration may still be the easiest solution. You do not need an MCP just because MCP exists. But if you have multiple AI applications, many external tools, and shared capabilities, this is where MCP becomes much more useful. And even then, your existing APIs can stay exactly where they are. So if you remember one thing from this video, remember this. An API tells software how to interact with another system. MCP gives AI applications a standard way to discover and use tools and context. And very often, those MCP tools still use APIs underneath. So the real question is not MCP or API. The better question is, where does each one belong in my architecture? APIs remain the foundation of software integration. MCP adds a standard layer for AI applications on the top of these capabilities. Once you see these two layers separately, MCP versus API becomes much easier to understand. This is really the whole idea. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.